Welcome back, crime sceners. If you have been following along with our series on the Nanette Ellis case, you are not going to want to miss this one because I've been doing a little bit of digging around and I have found out some very interesting information. And stay until the end because there's something about the murder weapon you might just want to hear. As usual, the disclaimer. Please note that any statements or opinions expressed here are purely speculative and are not intended to accuse any individual or entity of wrongdoing. Unless otherwise stated as fact, the information provided reflects personal observations or hypotheses. Any conclusions drawn from this content should be viewed in this context. And don't forget to like, subscribe and share this around so we can get as many eyes on this as possible. And also comment. When I started this channel, I didn't want it to be like other channels who just tell one story and that's it. That's why I went with unsolved cases, because I don't want to tell their story, I want it solved. And I want this channel to be more of a community where we can all share our ideas and theories. So please comment. There's no judgment here. I might not always agree with the theories, but I mean, who the hell am I? They could be right and I could be wrong, but it's good to hear what everyone thinks. So I was digging around in some old newspapers the other day and I found a few things that you guys might find very interesting. The first one turned out to be not so interesting at all because it had to do with Craig saying that he was going to the drive-in to see Mortuary the night Nanette was murdered. I recently found out that Mortuary was released in 1982 and I was wondering why it was being played at the drive-in in 1984. I mean, usually drive-ins, well, as far as I know anyway, I definitely could be wrong, but from my experience, drive-ins usually play new release movies or they play like much older ones. So I dug around and I found out that the American release was in 1982, but I couldn't find the release date for Australia. I actually thought that I might have caught Craig out in a lie here, but I found this. This is the ad for Mortuary at the drive-in in the week that Nanette died. So yes, it was playing at the drive-in that night. It doesn't mean that he was actually going to go see it, but it was definitely playing. I've never even heard of this movie. It looks like it might be good. How ironic, though, that the tagline is "Where nobody rests in peace." I'm sure Nanette isn't. How could she when justice is being denied to her? And yes, that is a dig for the pathetic piece of filth who did this to her, because I know you're listening, trying to see how much evidence is being brought up. Are you really okay with Nanette not being at peace? It's not too late to confess, you piece of human garbage. But anyway, I digress. The next thing I found was an article written about Nanette that I think was on the Saturday, and I think this was on page 3, this tiny article. Not the front page, but they originally thought she had been shot in the head. Now, as much as I hate when media gets it wrong, including when I get it wrong, I don't particularly blame them in this case. If you've seen the crime scene photos, there was so much blood on her and around her, especially her head and neck area, that I probably would have assumed it was a gunshot wound on first sight. This was actually corrected the next day. They didn't actually state that they were making a correction. They just started saying that she had been stabbed like they'd been saying it all along. They spelt her middle name wrong for a while too, spelling it M-A-Y instead of M-A-E. Notice at this stage they're saying the murder weapon hasn't been found. But I'll just read it in case you can't see it. It is a little hard to see. It's not very good quality. Okay, it says, mystery today surrounded the fatal shooting of a mother of 2 at Boronia. Homicide squad detectives said they were treating the death as murder. Police said the dead woman was Nanette May Ellis, 42, of Manuka Drive, Boronia. Her body was found on the back porch of her home by her 16-year-old son about 6:05 last night. Neighbours today said Mrs. Ellis was a kind, friendly woman. She was young, attractive, and kept to herself, one woman neighbour who did not want to be named said. I wonder why they felt the need to say it was a woman neighbour. That's weird. Police believe Mrs. Ellis died from a single shotgun blast to the head. Police said the murder weapon had not been found. A yellow Toyota sedan parked in the driveway was being checked for fingerprints. Neighbours said Mrs. Ellis was divorced and had 2 teenage sons, Craig and Greg, which is quite interesting that neighbours knew the kids' names. I couldn't tell you the names of any of the kids that live in my neighbourhood. Maybe that's just a sign of the times. The next article that was printed in the newspaper was mentioning the vandalism. This one said, homicide squad detectives are trying to establish a link between the killing of a mother of two and a series of attacks on her car. They said they did not know whether the attacks were linked to the death of Mrs. Nanette May Ellis, 42, at her Baronia home on Friday night. But they said it was their best bet in the investigation. An autopsy showed Mrs. Ellis of Manuka Drive died of stab wounds to the upper back and neck. Homicide detectives were holding a conference at Russell Street today to determine their next moves. They have not found a murder weapon despite an intensive search around the dead woman's home. The weapon was said to be a large, sturdy knife. Mrs. Ellis, who works at Leader newspapers in the eastern suburbs, was found dead by her 16-year-old son. Police believe she had only just returned home from work when she was killed near the back door of her home. Mrs. Ellis had told work colleagues that her Corolla sedan had been vandalised and that she feared someone was trying to get at her. The tyres on the car had been slashed, it had been daubed with paint, and stones had been thrown at it. Mrs. Ellis told colleagues she did not know what was behind the attacks, and detectives said they would be trying to establish that in a bid to determine if it was relevant to her murder. Homicide squads also... that's finding another body of an Asian man in Coldstream at the same time. I don't know why they would add that to the bottom of Nanette's article. But they're saying that the murder weapon was a large, sturdy knife, which brings us back to the killer running with it. The knife has never been found, so we have to assume he left with it, and he took it far away because the police searched her house and the surrounding area. We've already kind of determined that the splash of blood on the back of Nanette's car was probably caused from the blood coming off the knife while the killer ran with it. And we've discussed the possibility of someone seeing this blood-soaked person running down the street. A viewer did contact me to say they believe that the killer changed clothes before they left the house, because in one of the pictures of the wardrobe in that back room, there were only empty coat hangers hanging on the rod. The viewer believes that the killer grabbed a change of clothes from there and then left the house. I think this might be possible, but I also know that teenage boys don't always hang up their clothes, so I was a bit torn as to what I believe there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that even if the killer had run out the door in a fresh set of clothes, because let's face it, he would have been covered in blood, or really, would he though? If she's on the ground being stabbed and he's standing above her, I'm wondering how much blood would have been on him. I think she did most of the bleeding in the laundry, and I'm not sure he followed her in there. There doesn't appear to be any footprints in the blood on the floor. I'm sure there was some splashback, but I'm not sure that he would have been soaking in it as I originally thought. But anyway, back to my point. Even if he didn't have a lot of blood on him, or if he had changed into new clothes, he still would have been carrying a large blood-covered knife, which to me would have been more conspicuous than some blood on clothing. It might not have been covered in blood though. I mean, that might be what they were doing in the kitchen. We know they went into the kitchen after the attack because there were some blood spots in there. So I'm wondering if they gave it a bit of a rinse. But if they did, it couldn't have been washed all away, or else they wouldn't have had that blood spot on the car. But either way, they still would have been carrying a large knife. I'm not sure that I would notice a bit of blood on someone if they were walking past me, but I sure as hell would notice if they were carrying a large, sturdy knife. Daylight savings, bright light, people returning from work and walking down the street. I'm quite convinced now that the killer escaped in a car that was in the driveway. Since Nanette was parked in her usual spot, this person had to either come in behind her or they could have already been there parked on the lawn. Either way, this, to me, is more proof that she knew the killer. Because if the car was already parked there, then she would have known them. And if the car pulled in behind her, then she let them in. I also found this article, Grudge Clue in Hunt for Killer. A mystery grudge is all homicide detectives have to go on as they hunt the killer of a Baronia mother of two. Nanette May Ellis, 42, was stabbed to death outside the back of her Manuka Drive house on Friday night. An autopsy showed fatal wounds to the upper back and neck. Mrs. Ellis had told workmates during the week before her death someone was trying to kill her. Her car had been splattered with paint and the tyres slashed. Police were also told rocks had been thrown at the car. Mrs. Ellis worked as a sales representative for a newspaper group. She told her workmates someone wanted to kill her. She didn't know why. Detectives are not convinced the murder and vandalism are linked. They said Mrs. Ellis had complained about the car damage, but they had been unaware of any death threat. Police acted on the complaint by increasing a patrol of the area, but that's as far as it went, a detective said. So this says that workmates said that Nanette had told them that someone was trying to kill her. I mean, that's a big step up from car vandalism. If my car was being vandalised, I would assume it was either kids or someone who was pissed off at me. But I don't think it would enter my head that someone was actually trying to murder me. I mean, murder is a pretty big thing. It only happens to a very small percentage of people. If someone said to me, someone's been attacking my car, I think someone's trying to kill me, I'd say, okay, calm down, you overreacting drama queen. So again, like I said in a previous video, what else was actually going on? Surely the police and Nanette didn't actually think her life was in danger over some vandalism. And she's telling co-workers that someone wants to kill her, but saying she doesn't know why. Let's just stop for a second and think about our own lives. If you thought someone was trying to kill you, or if police thought someone was trying to kill you, do you think you'd have absolutely no idea who it would be or why they would be doing it? Surely you'd be able to think of something, even if it's just tiny, something that somebody would want to kill you for, or at least hurt you. I have to think she wasn't totally clueless about it if she's saying this to her co-workers, and especially because of something else I found that I'll mention in a minute because it's in a different article. But as you can see here, police didn't think the vandalism and the murder were even related. Then why the police escorts? And you'll notice that they said they increased police patrol in the area, but they didn't mention that they'd been escorting her to work all week. I mean, he literally says that's as far as it went. The patrol in the area was as far as it went. And we know that's a lie. We know that they'd been escorting her to work all week, and they didn't mention that either, and I wonder why. That's interesting. And here's another article that I found, Stab Mum in Fear. Stab Mum, real nice way to describe her, but murdered Baronia mother Nanette Ellis was an independent woman, her father, Mr. Bert Wilson, said yesterday. She liked to be able to fend for herself, he said. But detectives added that Mrs. Ellis, 42, and they keep saying 42, but I'm pretty sure she was 41. That's what it says in the coroner's report anyway, she was 41. Was frightened in the week before she was viciously stabbed to death at her home last Friday. She had sought help from police and friends after a vendetta of vandalism scared her. Mr. Wilson, 68, said the murderer had to be a psychopath. You wonder what you can do when things like that happen, he said, and the man's still walking around. The thing I want to see printed is that this bloke has been caught. He said his daughter was close to her teenage sons, Craig, 19, and Greg, 16. If she had shared her thoughts, it would have been with them, he said. Greg, who had been watching TV at a neighbour's house on Friday night, returned home for tea to find his mother in a pool of blood on the back porch of their Manuka Drive home. She had been stabbed in the upper back and neck. Police were yesterday searching neighbours' homes for a long-bladed knife and any clues the murderer may have left. Detectives said that in the days before her murder, Mrs. Ellis's car tyres had been slashed, the windscreen wipers ripped out and paint thrown over it. Rocks were hurled at her car as she drove to work. It's certainly a coincidence that her car was vandalised over a time from January 31st, but we've found nothing definite yet to connect this with the murder, a detective said. This one made me sad because her father said the thing he wanted to see printed was that this bloke had been caught, and he never got to read that. Interesting, though, that he said that if Nanette had shared her thoughts, it would have been with Craig and Greg. I questioned if maybe she had been hiding stuff from them to keep them safe, but a viewer had written in the comments that they knew everything, and going by this, I have to think the viewer was right. This makes me think that Craig and Greg know more than they're saying, or maybe they know more than they think they do. Either way, it would be really good if they actually spoke about it, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. And look at this picture here. It's really hard to make out, but what are they carrying out? Is that a table or a bench? The guy on the left looks like he's wearing a suit, but the one on the right doesn't even look like a cop to me. Is that one of the boys? Because the caption to that photo says, "Police check the murder victim's Baronia home for clues." So if that's what they're doing, why is that kid there? It looks like a kid to me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is that a kid down there, or is that one of the boys? I don't know. It's very hard to see. Not good quality image at all. Is from a 1984 newspaper, so... this one is just a small one added onto another article. This is basically an article about the Asian guy that was found in Coldstream, and they've just slapped a little bit about Nanette on the end, which I don't know why they keep combining these two people when they've got nothing to do with each other, but doesn't matter, whatever. This one says, police investigating the murder of Mrs. Nanette May Ellis still haven't found a motive for the killing. The Boronia mother of two was found stabbed to death at the back door of her Manuka Drive home last Friday. Police believe Mrs. Ellis knew her killer, as the house wasn't disturbed and there was no sign of forced entry. It appeared the murderer either had access to the house or was allowed in before the stabbing. The interesting thing in this one is that the police believe she knew her killer because the house wasn't disturbed and there was no forced entry. And they said the killer had access to the house or was let in. So back in 1984, they definitely believed it was someone she knew. How they changed that to someone entered while she was unloading the car is anyone's guess. I also found Nanette in the obituaries, and it's funny because when I first heard about this case, it seemed like Nanette didn't know that many people. It was kind of put across as, oh, this lady just looked after her boys and went to work. You know, and the Mamma Mia article said, and I quote, apart from a regular aerobics class she did with a friend and a few drinks out with her workmates, Nanette lived a very quiet, modest life, end quote. But she knew a lot of people, didn't she? I mean, she apparently had a friend who she did aerobics with. She knew everyone who worked in her office and the ones who worked at Knox Sherbrooke. She also would have known every single person who advertised in the Free Press because she was the advertising manager. She knew her. I'm sure that also is quite a few people. I mean, how many people would have been advertising? Quite a lot. Back in the day, you didn't advertise on Facebook and Instagram and all these other places you can advertise now. It's pretty much the local paper is where you would advertise. So that would have been quite a few people that she had met and known and maybe had relationships with. And when I say relationships, I'm not talking romantic. I'm talking, you know, you can have a relationship with the guy at the deli if you speak to him often enough. But yeah, she also knew her sons, her siblings, her parents, cousins, her ex, probably his new wife. She would have come into contact with people while out for drinks with workmates. Right before she died, she met a few policemen. The neighbours seemed to know who she was. They knew the kids' names, so they must have been on a friendly basis. The woman across the road knew her, that's for sure. So when everyone's like, who could have killed her? She didn't even know that many people. Well, she knew quite a lot of people, and she came into contact with quite a lot of people, which absolutely broadens the suspect list. And this was brought to my attention anyway when I was reading the obituaries, because there are quite a few of them. And there are some people I've never even heard of, but I'll read them out, and you guys let me know if you know any of them. Okay, so the first one is Ellis, Nan, dearly loved friend of Fran, Keith, Justine, and Melissa. Our thoughts are with you, Craig, Greg, and Mrs. Wilson. You know, so who is Fran, Keith, Justine, and Melissa? Never heard of them. Okay, Ellis, Nanette May, treasured memories of our loving mum, passed away suddenly on February 10th, 1984. In God's care, till we meet again, Craig and Greg. Well, we know them. Ellis, Nanette May, treasured memories of happy times together, Max, ex-husband, of course. Ellis, Nanette May, mum, you were not only a mother to me, but the person I loved and will always love most on this earth. No one can ever take your place. Please wait for me. Love you always, Greg. Kiss, 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 kiss. Hug, 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 hug. So Craig and Greg have put in one together, and then Greg's put his own one in as well. That's on the Monday. This was all done on the Monday after she was murdered. This one here, life tragically taken Friday, February 10th, cherished daughter of Mavis Wilson, nee Wasson, loved and loving sister of Linda, Barbara and Neville. There you go, she had two sisters and a brother. A smile that greeted us always, a voice we'll never forget, thoughts that will linger forever, in memory we see her yet. Happy, smiling, always content, loved and respected wherever she went, rest in peace. That's lovely. This one passed away suddenly, February 10th, 1994. Dearly loved, eldest daughter of Bertram and Mavis Wilson. We will always love and remember you. That's her parents, obviously. This one taken into God's care on Friday. Dearly loved niece of Iris and Rex. So obviously that's her aunt and uncle. Loved cousin to Graham and wife Jenny. Loving Nanette to Warren and Jessica. In our in our anguish, we ask why. So that's obviously aunts, uncles, and cousins. This one, dearly beloved sister of Linda, auntie of Andrew and Darren, sadly missed, always remembered, rest in peace. So there she had nephews as well. More people that she knew. This one, our fondest love, you will always remain in our hearts, Graham, Jenny, Warren, and Jessica. This one, we will all miss you. Rest in peace, my darling, Bill Cooper. Rest in peace, my darling, Bill Cooper. Someone thinks of her as his darling, and I've never heard the name Bill Cooper ever before. A gentle lady with a kind heart. She was truly a wonderful person. She was not only my boss, but more of a friend, someone I felt proud to have known. I'm thinking of you, Nan, and the memories are mine to keep. So God look over her and may she rest in peace. I loved you, my Nambo, Kerry. So obviously a co-worker. This one says, dearly beloved friend and colleague of Margot, a beautiful lady taken too soon. Her life will be a treasured part of my eternal memories. May you now find the roses we both searched for on earth. God rest your soul, my darling friend. Condolences to Greg and Craig. That's co-worker. A truly wonderful person. To know you was to respect you. Rest in peace, directors of staff. Frampton's Carpets and Furnishings. I'm guessing that was somebody who advertised in the paper. This one, deepest sympathy to Craig and Greg on your sad loss. Committee and members, Fair Park Football Club. So there you go. There's a whole bunch of more people there at a football club that she would have come into contact with as well. This one, a lady of class. To know her really was to love her. A treasured friend to all. Rest peacefully now, Paul. I'm pretty sure Paul was co-worker, but it really could mean any Paul. Always remembered as a warm, wonderful lady, Pam Stewart. Don't know who that is, never heard of her. This one is thinking of Greg. Love Sharon, Kelly, and Christine. I'm guessing they're friends of Greg's. This is Mrs. Ellis. You were a beautiful lady and the mother of my best friend. I admired and respected you always, Debbie. So obviously she's a friend of either Craig or Greg's or both. Nan, we know we can never take your place, but we'll love and care for your sons always. You will not be forgotten. Pat, Graham, Karen, and Debbie. A committed, loyal, and hard-working lady whose belief in her newspaper was matched only by the caring friendship she extended to... That's smudged out, so I'm guessing it was to all, but it looks a little bit long to be to all, but I don't know. What do you think? I don't know if that's been smudged out deliberately or not. Our deepest sympathy to those Nan left behind. That's directors and staff of Leader Associated Newspapers. Deeply respected friend and colleague of all at the Mountain District Free Press. Nan, words will not properly express our feelings towards you and how deeply we all feel your loss. Our hearts go out to Greg, Craig, and all your family, the staff of the Mountain District Free Press. So I'm reading so long, I'm just tripping over my tongue right now. The next one was, dearly loved and respected friend, needlessly and tragically taken. Remembering all the good times we shared, heartfelt sympathy to Craig, Greg, and Mrs. Wilson, Pam, Bob, Andrea, Allison, and Peter. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. A wonderful boss, dearest friend, a lady of class. Condolences to Craig and Greg. Beth, obviously a co-worker. A beautiful rose in God's garden. Thanks for your friendship, Heather. I don't think that was a co-worker, but I do think that was a friend. Okay, this one, life taken tragically, Friday, February 10th, will be sadly missed by all Belgrave traders. Deepest sympathy to Greg and family on your sad loss. The Swain family, obviously friends of Greg's. Deepest sympathy to Greg and Craig. Our thoughts are with you. Gary and family. Don't know who they are. Now, I left these two to the end only because it kind of felt to me a little bit of a weird one-upmanship, and I might be completely wrong. And, you know, people are grieving and they grieve in their own ways, and I've never lost anybody that was really important to me, so I can't even tell you how I would really feel, because I can sit here and say, well, you know what, I would feel like this and I feel like that, but you never really know until you go through it, do you? So I'm not really saying anything. It just seemed a little odd to me that, on the first day, on the Monday, Craig and Greg both put in one together, and then Greg put his own in. So, nothing weird about that. But then the next day, on the Tuesday, which was also Valentine's Day, by the way, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. I'm sure it doesn't. But then Craig has gone and put in his own one the next day. And it just made me think, was it a sort of a timing thing or what was going on or whatever? But it just seemed weird that you put in one together on the Monday, and then Greg's gone in and put his own, and then Craig's like, oh, well, I'll put my own in as well. It could be nothing, just, no big deal. But he's written, to dear Mum, I loved you so much that words cannot express. I keep saying why. There are so many things I wanted to say to you but never said. But Mum, I did love you so much, and I will always have you in my thoughts and heart. I know you will be with me in soul always. Please watch over me and guide me until we meet again. Your son, Craig. Okay, which sounds lovely, but the one thing that kind of stuck out to me about that is the fact that he said, there's so many things I wanted to say but never said, but Mum, I did love you so much. That's something that I've said a million times to people in my life, and that always comes after a time where I have been a complete ass. Like, you not treating somebody very nicely, and then you might say, you know what, I haven't treated you very nicely, but you know what, I really do love you, and not only have I said that to people, but people have said that to me too. I know I've been a complete butt to you lately, but you know what, I really do love you. And that's the kind of, I might be reading way too much into this, but that's kind of like what popped out at me when I read it. And the way he says, but Mum, I did love you so much. Like, he's trying to express that he wasn't showing it, but he wants her to know it. Does that make any sense? Like, is that making sense at all? Because sometimes I know what I want to say, but I'm not very good at putting it into words. But especially when it comes to all this kind of stuff like emotions and feelings and whatnot, I'm not good at that stuff. But I don't know. Can someone write in the comments, let me know if I'm totally way off base there, or if they've kind of had an experience like that as well. Because that kind of made me think that him and Nanette weren't getting along well, and that possibly she wasn't thinking that he loved her. I don't know, I might be way off base, I might be totally overthinking that, but that's the first thought that came into my mind when I read it. But lovely obituary there. But this last one that I wanted to read last was because I don't know if I'm overreading into this one either, but Greg also put in another one of his own on the Tuesday. So Craig and Greg have put in the one together on the Monday. Greg's put his own on the Monday. Craig's put his own on the Tuesday. And then Greg's put in another one on the Tuesday. And it said, you are my mum, a precious friend, until someone brought your end. As I walked in and found you there, I hoped your spirit was in God's care. And as I grieve and mourn and pray, I hope we meet another day. Our love was too strong to be broken by death. I will love you forever, Mum. Greg, kiss, 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 kiss. So, obviously a poem from a 16-year-old boy, which, I'm not saying anything. 16-year-old boys write poetry, not any that I ever knew, but I'm sure there's 16-year-old boys out there who write poetry, and it's not a big thing. But obviously this was written by Greg himself. The fact that he says, as I walked in and found you there, that's not a poem that you got from somewhere else. Also to the until someone brought your end. So obviously Greg has written this himself. And the reason why, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with a 16-year-old boy writing poetry. I'm not saying that at all, okay? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there was someone who contacted me and actually told me that Craig was actually a very nice, sweet young boy, and that Greg was the more aggressive one. And, I've been talking to other people about the inconsistencies of information I've been getting. And obviously, there are some people who are writing to me and trying to lead me in a different direction. And I'm not saying that that's one of them, because I don't know which one was sweet, which one was aggressive, or if they were both a bit of both. Most people can be sweet and most people can be a bit aggressive as well. So, I'm not saying that information was incorrect, but when you're telling me, or you're trying to make me think that somebody was an aggressive person, and then they're sitting there writing poetry, and you have to remember too that, back in the day, if you wanted this in the paper on Tuesday, you probably would have had to ring at least by Monday to book it in and have it put in there. So Nanette has died on the Friday night, and sometime on the Saturday, Sunday or Monday, Greg's writing poetry, and that doesn't sound very aggressive to me. I myself, at any age, and also being female, can't even imagine that I've just lost my mother. I wouldn't be sitting around writing poetry over the weekend. That seems weird to me, but like I said, I'm not a poetry writing person anyway, so I probably wouldn't write a poem about anybody at any time. And maybe this was the way that he was kind of working through what happened and working through his grief. But I also just found it kind of strange, because when someone's just been, especially murdered, your first thoughts are going to be funerals, who did this? You've got police statements that you're giving, you've got crime scenes to clean up, you've got, there's just so many things, isn't there? When somebody dies, and especially if someone's murdered, there's actually more stuff on top of if someone's murdered. You've got all this stuff that you have to do, and all this stuff that you have to think about, and writing poetry would be the absolute last thing I'd be thinking about. But then again, I'm not Greg, I'm not a 16-year-old boy, never have been. I'm not a poetry writer, never have been. So, I don't know. I just thought too that the last line, our love was too strong to be broken by death, that seems like to me, okay, and, as I've just said, obviously, you can see that I'm not a very emotional, wah kind of person. So this is to me, our love was too strong to be broken by death. Seems like something that you would write to somebody that you were passionately in love with. Like, it doesn't seem to me that it's what you would write to your mum. I certainly wouldn't write it to my mum, but as I said, I wouldn't write it at all. But I don't know, if you are a boy, or if you are a poetry writer, or someone who's kind of like really, I know one of you viewers out there is very like empathic and very feely and stuff like that, so maybe if that person can comment. But if you are a kind of very sensitive boy, just let me know in the comments if that was weird to you. Like, just, it might not be weird to you. Just write in the comments to say, no, that's not weird to me. I would have said that about my mum, and I'd be like, okay. People then obviously do things differently than me. Of course they do. I know that. Everyone does everything differently than me. But, if you are a very sweet, sensitive boy and you think that's a little over the top, let me know that as well, because I'd really like to know, like, other people's opinions on this. Did this seem a little bit too, I don't know, romantic-wise? I don't know. That's just what I thought anyway. Am I being too harsh on a 16-year-old grieving boy? I may be being too harsh on this poor 16-year-old grieving boy. But let me know in the comments if I'm being a total dick. So also, if you know any of these people that have just been mentioned, or you are any of these people, can you please drop a comment below or email me? The email is in the description, because I'd really like to know what your relationship was with Nanette and what you think and who you think killed Nanette. Because if you're placing an obituary about Nanette in the paper in 1984, you obviously were quite close. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't cheap to put in one of those obituaries back then, but I'm not sure. I might be wrong on that. But obviously people who don't have a relationship with her or don't think much of her aren't going to write an obituary, are they? So any one of those people that we just mentioned obviously had some sort of relationship with Nanette and actually, liked her. So it would be great to hear from any of you if you're not already dead, because it is a 41-year-old case. Okay, so this last article is the one that really made me go, ooh, really? Hey, mother knew her killer. Homicide Squad detectives believe Baronia mother to Nanette May Ellis, now they're spelling her middle name right, knew her killer. They said evidence at her house suggested it was unlikely she had disturbed an intruder. The acting head of the Homicide Squad, Detective Inspector Les Walsh, said there was no sign of forced entry and nothing to suggest a desperate struggle inside the Manuka Drive home. Despite her having lived in terror in the days before her death, detectives today said they were keeping an open mind on the motive for Mrs. Ellis's murder. Inspector Walsh said detectives would be delving into her background to build up a better picture of the attractive 42-year-old victim. But he said they obviously could not discount recent incidents in which her car was repeatedly damaged. There were 4 rock-throwing incidents in which the car's windscreen and radiator were damaged, her car tyres were slashed, the windscreen wipers were ripped out, and paint was thrown over the car. Workmates at the Mountain District Free Press have told detectives they believe the terror campaign was in response to a feature on Halloween Mrs. Ellis was working on. Inspector Walsh today said her colleagues had been so concerned for her safety that on Friday afternoon when she died, a workmate had followed her home. She turned off a short distance from Mrs. Ellis's home when it appeared that everything was okay, Inspector Walsh said. He said that was the last time Mrs. Ellis was seen alive. She had left work about 5 p.m. and was found stabbed to death on the back porch of her home by her 16-year-old son Greg about 6:10 p.m. Detectives do not know if Mrs. Ellis's killer was waiting for her when she arrived home or whether she let the killer into the house. Inspector Walsh has said blood in the house suggested that Mrs. Ellis was attacked inside before she made her way to the back porch where she collapsed. He said it was not known if a second attack happened on the porch or whether she had collapsed from the wounds inflicted inside the home. Now, I'll read the rest of the article, the last paragraph of the article in just a second, but I just wanted to discuss this first, because for starters, the headline is Mother Knew Her Killer. How do we go from that to know she didn't know her killer at all, someone just snuck in? What a crock. And why would they change direction like that? Sounds like someone's protecting someone, if you ask me. Also, what is this about her working on a Halloween feature and that might be the motive for the vandalism? Nanette was the advertising manager. Why would she be writing stories? And why would her workmates say that she was? And what sort of feature could she be working on that would possibly have her killed? About Halloween. Like I always say, more questions than answers, as usual. If anyone knows anything about a Halloween feature Nanette may have been working on, please let me know. But this article also keeps with the receptionist story that she followed her down Burwood Highway as well. But here's the last paragraph of the article that you might find interesting. Mrs. Ellis's other son, Craig, 19, is a cook, and detectives were still searching for one of his knives missing from the kitchen. They suspect it is the murder weapon. The police think that Nanette was killed with one of Craig's knives. Now, that doesn't mean that Craig used it, and it could have been found since and found not to be the murder weapon after all, but knowing that the murder weapon has not been found and with no mention that Craig's missing knife has been found, I have to assume that it's still missing and it's still a possible murder weapon, which means that if Craig's knives were taken in and tested and returned to him a few months later, which was what I was told by a viewer, it appears that not all of them were tested. One is missing, and that means that nobody went there to kill her. Most people take their own weapon when they go to kill someone. I mean, imagine going to kill someone and just assuming something will be nearby. No, you take your own weapon, which once again means it was someone in the house, someone she knew. But we already knew that, and it appears the police in 1984 thought that as well. I wonder why Craig never mentioned in the podcast that his mother was probably killed with one of his own knives. Weird. So what do you think of all that? Why do you think police have changed their theory? What do you think of the obituaries? Considering you know that it was someone she knew, do you think the killer is in that list? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great Easter weekend.